Hi, Sanjeev. Thank you for joining me on the podcast. How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm fine, thank you. A massive fan of still games, so it means a lot to get to speak to you.
Yeah. Well, I do. I like it when people from your neck of the woods, from like Yorkshire, Leeds, Bradford, or whatever, get the show because you guys know your humor. So when you guys get it, it's very gratifying.
We'll start with actually like with still game. Obviously, it's very Scottish, the language and stuff. Did you expect it to get out of Scotland?
Well, what's interesting is like, especially Scottish taxi drivers, especially Glasgow taxi drivers who love still game and say, it's the Glasgow humor. I don't think it is. I think maybe 10% of it is Scottish humor. And it's obviously very heavily dialect-wise, it's very Glasgow, but in terms of what it deals with, in terms of the issues it deals with, in terms of thematically, it's universal. So it's about the fact that older people don't stop being people, as they get older. They've still got personalities, they're still mischievous, they still make mistakes, they're still up for stuff. I mean, that's the reason it's called Still Game, is that they're still game. And I think that that's a universal theme. I mean, globally, people are living longer. You see all these TikToks of 90-year-old weightlifters and skydivers and all that. I mean, it's a thing. So I think thematically, there's nothing, and also because of the way that we watch television now, because of the streamers, because of Netflix and Amazon and Apple and all that, it's that we will sit and we will watch anything from anywhere with the subtitles on. And that's been proved. I mean, since Still Game's been on Netflix, it used to be that if, say, I met someone from Leeds like yourself, yeah, say 15 years ago, that liked the show, within 2 minutes you'd find out that you had a Scottish relative that had given you the DVD or had given you, do you know what I mean, had
Yeah,
alerted you to it, right? I'm finding more and more recently, if I meet people from down south, from out with the UK, they found it on Netflix and they thought, oh, I mean, they might be looking for Squid Game, I don't know, but they fo-
yeah.
they found this thing Still Game and it's resonated with them and they've read the subtitles and okay, there may be certain like references they might not get, right? But for the most part, it's not it doesn't exclude anyone. So I think I think it's a Scottish comedy in the sense that it's set in Scotland and has a Scottish dialect, but I don't think the themes are Scottish, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, like you say, there's the characters in still game. You get them anywhere in the world, don't you? Really?
Yeah. In fact, I need to tell you this funny story. We were doing a show, so we do a thing called Old Pals, where five of the cast do like a kind of Q&A thing. And
Yeah.
we've been going, and we've done a few down south. So basically, there's a promoter called Red Shoe Productions, Lee, who got in touch and he said, "Look, I'm a big Still Game fan." He's got a Scottish connection, but he said, "I'm a big Still Game fan, and I know for a fact that you probably think you could only do these shows in Scotland, but I know that I could bring this show down south and get an audience." So he's been putting us on shows in like we've done Newcastle, we've done Liverpool, we've done and we did Blackpool, right? So we did I can't remember the venue in Blackpool. Viva. It was the Viva Cabaret. So basically, Jane, who plays Isa, she got into a taxi to go to the venue from her B&B, right? So the taxi driver says, "All right, love, where are you off to?" And she says, I'm off to the Viva." "All right, is there a show on? Is there a show on today? What's happening? What's going on?" And she said, "Oh, yeah, it's this show called Still Game. It's a kind of a Scottish sitcom, and I'm one of the cast, and we're doing this kind of Q&A kind of audience with show." "Oh, right. No, I've not heard of that one. I tell you what, though, if you like Scottish comedy, do you know what you should watch? It's a brilliant show called Jack and Victor." So, it's and she said that he didn't even clock that she was the actress that played Isa, and he loved the show. He just forgot it was called Still Game.
Do you get that? Obviously, Isa had like all the makeup and the hair, so she's probably not as recognizable as some of the other characters. But do you get recognized a lot without the beard and stuff?
Yeah, surprisingly. I mean, in the early days, before, I mean, it used to be that I'd only be recognized by 10-year-old boys, which was a bit problematic in supermarkets because it felt like I should be on a register. Boys pointing at you and the mums are slapping them. "Don't stare at the Asian man." Um, but latterly, because I've done a lot more work looking like this without any of the beard and everything, because I did a show called River City, which is like a Scottish soap opera, and I just look like this, I sound like this. I mean, the thing is, my voice is a giveaway. So if people say, "Why do I know that guy?" Why do I know that vaguely Jeff Goldblum looking guy? And then open my mouth, it's Navid. So the voice is a giveaway. I get recognized way more than Jane does.
Mm.
I mean, I've been out with Jane socially, yeah, and people will come up and they'll recognize me and they'll ask Jane to take the selfie. And I'll say to them, "Do you know who's taking that photo?" And they're like, "I don't know, is it your carer?" I said, "No, that's Isa." So she's probably the one that does look the most different. But yeah, I get surprised by how much I get recognized, given that I've got all the face furniture on, you know?
Well, obviously you play a shopkeeper in Still Game. Your family actually owned a shop during your childhood, didn't they?
That's right. Yeah, yeah. So basically, I was about 8, 9 years old, and my mum had trained as a social worker, and she's been a primary school teacher. She retrained as a social worker. My dad was a trained teacher. But they decided they basically they worked their arses off to send us to private school, and the primary school we lived in the north of Glasgow, and the school was in the south side of Glasgow. So they said just for for like for ease of transport and stuff that they'd have a business like a shop near the school, so that we could go there after school and then we'd all go home together. So that was kind of the reason why they did it. But also, I mean, my dad was a teacher and he watched all of his friends get promoted. And he's thinking, well, I wonder why the turban seat guy is not getting promoted. He had his own theories. So I think he just got a little bit fed up with that and thought, well, why don't we just have our own business? And so they worked really, really hard. And we ran the shop, I think, for 4 years in a place called Battlefield in the south side of Glasgow. And yeah, I used to go after school finished, I'd go and help out. And it was a real eye opener for me because ever since then, I've been obsessed with shops because it's I would watch my mum. So my mum, 5'4", wee Punjabi looking woman with a shalwar kameez or Punjabi suit on. And you could see people coming in and they were a little bit wary. They're like, I don't know how to connect with you. You look different from me. And then her English was better than theirs because she had she'd had a really good education growing up in Nairobi, and she was, like I say, a social worker. I mean, 6 months later, she's helping them fill out forms, for various bits and bobs. And I could see how much of an impact that could make on people and how that we could represent as Asians. And I saw that with my own eyes. And also just a shop is a brilliant place for comedy because you're trapped. I mean, if you pretty much like name me your three favorite sitcoms.
Well, Still Game, Only Fools and Horses, and
Let's just say
let's
I'm
say
a
Peep Show.
Peep Show. Okay, so if you take Only Fools and Horses, Del Boy and Rodney are trapped because they want to be millionaires, but they're living in a high rise in Peckham. It's that the distance between what they want and what they are, and it's very telling that in the very last episode of Only Fools and Horses, they get the million. Do you know what I mean? And they stop being trapped. Peep Show's a different one. I think they're sort of trapped in that they want to be doing better than they are, and they just are kind of trapped in their situation. My favorite sitcom of all time is I'm Alan Partridge,
Oh,
and
it's brilliant, Alan Partridge. Yeah.
he's stuck in local radio. He wants to be on mainstream television, but he's trapped where he is. Still game. Jack and Victor are sort of trapped in Craig Lang, but in a shop, you're definitely trapped because I know this from working in a shop. If you want a dentist appointment, you have to scrub around all your family to find out who's going to cover your shift so you can get to the dentist. Oh, and by the way, if you do work in a corner shop, your teeth are worse than most people's because you've been firing into the chocolate tools and the pineapple chunks. So there's that idea of being trapped, but also there's the lovely notion of if you are a shopkeeper, you're bang in the middle of the community and people are coming in to get their everyday stuff. So whether you want to or whether you don't want to, you know everything about that person. You know what they bought last week. Your imagination runs wild. Like I always give this example of if someone came into our shop and they bought like a puzzler book and a bottle of Lucozade, that's a hospital visit. That's all that could be. So you have all this knowledge about the community, and that was why that's why I went on to write a show called Fags, Bags and Bags for Radio 4, where it's all set in a shop called Fags, Bags and Bags, and I play the shopkeeper. And he's very different from Navid because he's not sarcastic. He's much more benevolent and kind. And he has all this power because he knows all the community, but he uses it for good. He tries to sort people's problems out. So I call it like a. You're too young to remember Cheers, aren't you? Or have you ever seen
I've
Cheers?
never seen it. I've heard you. I've never seen it. Though.
So Cheers was an absolute. It's up there with the top 5 sitcoms of all time. and it's set in a bar in Boston in the States. And the guy that runs it is Sam Malone, and everyone loves him. He runs the bar, he knows everyone's business, and he tries to help everyone. So I always call Fags, Mags, and Bags like a dry cheers. But also the other beauty of a shop is anyone can come into a shop. So you can have any storyline you like. So like a giraffe handler could come in, a beekeeper could come in, a hypnotist could come in. I don't know, Sydney Sweeney could come into your shop for whatever reason. You can, and it just means that for that week you can have a different storyline. So I've since I worked in the family shop, I've been obsessed with the notion of the shop in the community.
Well, going from there to having a job as an actor and a writer, how did that come about? What was the
That
backstory there?
that backstory really annoys people because it's so unconventional, and I couldn't use it as a template for someone that wanted to get into the business. So basically, I'll try and condense this as much as I can, right, and keep it interesting. So when I was 13, 14 years old, I thought I wanted to be a doctor. And I was that clever guy, that swatty, head down, arse up, didn't bother the teachers, got loads of A's. The joke was that I could never be a beekeeper because I didn't know what a bee looked like. And I was that guy, very quiet, very studious, yeah? And I convinced myself I wanted to be a doctor. I didn't really think about it too hard. I just made the decision and I thought, oh, that's it. I know what subjects to pick. I don't have to worry about it anymore. And then when I got into medical school at Glasgow Uni, I hated it from the minute I walked in. And then I thought, okay, well, the thing is, this isn't the work. This is the degree. But I thought, well, do I really want to be a doctor? Do I want to be a GP? Do I want to be a surgeon? Do I want to be an anaesthetist? I don't actually want to do any of the options, which is stupid timing given that I spent 5 years getting the exams. Anyway, so I switched to do maths because I really like maths and I was good at maths. And so I did a maths degree thinking, well, it's a good degree to have. People seem to respect it. I think it's quite kind of flexible. You can go into various, like accountancy, insurance, whatever, logistics. Got my maths degree, wasn't ready to go into the work market yet. So I started a postgrad down in London, and it was just too hard for me. I just wasn't clever enough. And I came back to Glasgow and I signed on and bumped about and travelled and did wee jobs here and there. And then about a year after that, I kind of resigned myself to the fact that I was probably going to become a teacher. No, I mean, nothing wrong with that because my dad had been a maths teacher, but I just wasn't kind of, floating my boat. And then a friend got in touch, and this is the phone call. I say it's the phone call that changed my life. So I called her one of the Asians that escaped. And what I mean by that is she was one of the Asians in Glasgow that hadn't gone down the traditional route of either the family business or accountancy, engineering, medicine, or law. She had gone into the media. She'd gone into the BBC and done really, really, really well. She'd got into this, they used to have this graduate production trainee scheme. Like 6,000 people applied and there were six spaces and she got in. So she was like, I really admired her for going off the beaten track and doing something dead interesting. So she got in touch and she said, what are you up to these days? I said, I couldn't be up to less. I'm not working. I'm bored up my gourd. Why? And she said, okay, left field, but I am going to be producing a new radio show for Radio Scotland and we're looking for presenters. And I thought about you. And I said, this is typical me, right? Trying to talk myself out of a job. I said, that sounds great, but I've got a maths degree. I've got the one degree that is the least creative degree you can do because there's no essay, there's no dissertation, there's not even any opinions. 2 + 2 = 4. There's no grey area. You can't go in to a lecture and argue that 2 and 2 = 14. It's just the fact. I said, "Are you sure that you're thinking of me for this job?" And she said, "I just remember you from university, and you made me laugh." I said, "Okay, right, it's your funeral." I did an audition, got the job. Suddenly, I'm a radio presenter, and it wasn't a comedy show. It was like a magazine show. So light and dark, serious and funny, bit of music, bit of this, bit of that. Brilliant, brilliant training ground. So I thought I was going to be a journalist, and I was very at home doing that because the minute I started radio presenting, I felt like, wow, I'm actually quite good at this, and I really enjoy it. Maybe I am kind of like a radio journalist, and I did think about that for a while. But what started happening after a few months was that I would start writing my own links for the scripts, and I'd just put jokes in because I'd watched so much comedy as a kid that it became a default setting. I mean, I wasn't a comedian or anything, and I wasn't a performer, but I had watched all the sketch shows, all the sitcoms. I'd obsessed with them. Things like The Young Ones, a bit of Fry and Laurie, absolutely. Cheers, Two Ronnies, Kenny Everett, blah, blah, blah. Any comedy that came on, good or bad, I would lap it up. So it turned out that that being my education was watching comedy and television, and that was what I was channeling when I was writing these wee links, and that got noticed. I became known as a funny presenter, and that was what led to me being asked to write sketches for Chewing the Fat, which you must know Chewing the Fat, or do you know Chewing the Fat?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, the sketch show that predated Still Game. So I ended up being a writer on Chewing the Fat. I ended up writing for a show called Goodness Gracious Me, which is an all Asian sketch show at the same time. And that was really cool because I was doing all my Scottish stuff on Chewing the Fat and all my Asian stuff on Goodness Gracious Me at the same time. So it was brilliant. So I was then like getting a reputation as a comedy writer, sketch writer. I wrote a couple of sitcom pilots which didn't really go anywhere. But then also I had met up with a guy who I still write with, Donnie McCleary, who's the funniest guy I know. We became a writing partnership, and we would try and write sitcom pilots. But also, what we did was we wrote shows that we were in, so like radio shows, like sketch shows. And so that's when I started performing because I had no background in performing at all. I was a radio presenter, which is a version of performing, but it's not acting.
Yeah.
But these sketch shows, I started to do a bit of acting, so that was where I kind of learned the basics of acting. And then when Chewing the Fat stopped, and then Still Games spun off, Ford and Greg asked me if I wanted to play the shopkeeper character, and that really was the big kind of breakout thing for me. So a very, very organic kind of series of events, none of which were initiated by me. The headlines of my career have been someone tapping me on the shoulder and saying, you should do that. Huh? Oh, all right, I'll give it a go. And then, it turns out. Also, the other headline is that I thought I was learning in the classroom, but I was actually learning watching sketch shows. That was where I had my actual education.
Yeah, it's true. You see people like going off to college and university studying like you can get a degree in comedy and things, can't you? But I'm sure you're best off learning like you say from things in the past and
I mean,
actually doing it.
we'll never know, but I would love to know how far I would have got had I gone, when I was 14. I'm going to do, say, English literature, or I'm going to do media studies, and because I want to be a comedy writer. And if I'd have known at an early age, I probably wouldn't have done as well.
Yeah.
It's a theory. It's a theory.
So you mentioned there still game comes about. Um, when did you know it was a hit? I know you said when it went on Netflix, like people all over like England and things, but when did you know it was a hit anyway?
Well, because Chew the Fat had been huge in Scotland, and a bit, people down south were starting to like it as well. I think we all knew that whatever happened next was going to be a success to some degree, and people really, really loved the two old guys. So I thought, well, yeah, I think this will be a success. My personal take on it was that everyone knew the Jack and Victor character, even though they didn't know their names. Because I don't know if you know this, but the original Still Game was a stage play in 1997,
Yeah, I've
and it
seen
was
clips of it. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So that's Jack, Victor, and Winston,
Mm.
the three of them, and stuck in the flat because the lift's broken. And there's a whole storyline about a Hoover bag full of money. Very, 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 very funny. That was original. And then when Tune the Fat happened, they took those characters and they put them in sketches. But I think it's really obvious when you watch the sketches on Tune the Fat that these guys got a backstory. So
Mm.
it seemed the obvious thing to spin off after Tune the Fat. So they went with Jack and Victor. And I don't know if you remember as well from Tune the Fat that there used to be four old guys that do songs together.
Yeah.
So people kind of knew a version of Jack, Victor, Winston, and Tam,
Mm.
sort of, right? What they didn't know was Bobby or Isa or Navid or Mina, right? So we were kind of the newbies when Still Game started. So my issue was I don't want to break it for everyone because I'm one of the newbies. They might say we really like Jack and Victor, but what's the deal with the shopkeeper? So we filmed the first series, and I knew how to play Navid because basically Greg, Greg Hempel had said to me, look, it's really funny when you impersonate your dad. So I did a Glasgow version of my dad. And I felt comfortable doing it because I was channeling my dad. And I'm thinking, I think this will do okay. And then I remember, see, the problem is as well is the way that sitcoms are made. You film the whole series before anyone sees it. So you do 6 episodes. And the thing is, like, you can't learn. You've done the 6. and then you put it out there, and you're thinking, if the first one doesn't work, then the other five aren't going to work, and we can't change that. Do you know what I mean? We've kind of like spent our chips. So I remember we'd finished filming the first series, and then the very first episode of Still Game went out on a, I think it was a Saturday, was it a Friday night? I was at a wedding in Glasgow, and it was all, in fact, funnily enough, it was all medical students that I'd studied with that had become doctors. They were all at this wedding in this hotel in Glasgow. And I didn't want to tell anyone that I was going to be in this sitcom, right? Because I was too embarrassed. I didn't want to tell anyone. But word got out, oh, Sanj is in this thing called Still Gamers. So long story short, 12 people find a hotel room, put the telly on, and they watch it. And I'm standing watching them. And they weren't laughing that much. And I remember thinking, ooh, oh God. I thought it was funny, but they didn't. But then about, I think, 3 or 4 shows into the run, I was getting really good feedback from people. And then by the end of the run, people were raving about it. And at that point, I thought, no, I think we're on to a winner here. But yeah, that first episode was a bit of a, not sure if people are going to like this, but yeah.
It was the later series when you came into it more. Like in that first episode, you're in it for like 15 seconds,
Yeah.
like, and then Navid comes into it more. Did you know that was always going to happen, or was it just?
No, no, I mean, I know this from writing as well, is again, it probably took Ford and Greg to watch the first series and find out the bits they thought worked better than others. Do you know what I mean? And then concentrate on them. Because I've sort of seen the evolution of Naveed, because I don't write any of it. It's all Ford and Greg.
Yeah.
The way I've seen Naveed evolve is he, like you say, he'd kind of come in, parachute in, do a couple of killer lines, then Mina would do a better line, and then that was it. But I thought that worked really well because it was, you're in, bang. He couldn't get this Fernie, he couldn't get this whole Berna Fernies. Off he goes. And that was great fun. But as the series kind of evolved, he started from being this sarky guy to being a bit of a philosopher. And then by the time you get to the Hard Nuts episode, he has his own wee storyline where he has his midlife crisis. And then after that, he became a bit of an action hero. He's doing like the two-footed tackle in the walking football. He's doing the Breaking Bad thing at the end of Hooch. He's doing the whole bit in the care home where he chucks the water fountain through the window, and that was such a laugh. I mean, it was. I think basically from Ford and Greg's perspective, they just thought, let's just experiment with these characters and put them in different situations. We know who this guy is, so we know that if we put him in that situation, we know what he'll do and what he would say. But it's been fun, you know, for me, the way that Navid has evolved from kind of, like I say, quite sarky to full-on philosopher action hero.
Did having a shop in your childhood help that role?
Well, it did. Well, I mean, I was quite young when we had the shop, and my mum was way much warmer than Navid. But my dad was quite a sarcastic guy, so I could channel that. But also, where I went to school in Garnet Hill in Glasgow, a place called St Aloysius, there was a shop right next to the playground. And all I was interested in doing was playing football. So I'd go to the shop and get a roll and a toffee crisp, and that was my lunch. And there's this woman, Christine, that worked there. And all I heard her say for 5 years was, next, next. And honestly, her eyes would roll so hard she could reverse time. She clearly hated all these wee private school kids, you know, and she was stuck in the shop. And I channeled a bit of her because a lot of people have said to me, you're using Christine from Latif's shop, aren't you? I said, well, maybe a wee bit. But then also there's a whole thing about, I mean, I think Ford and Greg just made a brilliant observation about Naveed. When you're working in a shop like that, you have to put up with a lot of shite. You're there from 6 till 6. People are coming in and nicking stuff, trying stuff on. You've got people asking for single cigarettes. And all you really have in your armory, you can't use baseball bats anymore because it's not fashionable or indeed legal. So all you really have is your wit and your personality. So there's a whole generation of Asian shopkeepers that have this hybrid accent and this brilliant line and sarcasm. And that's really what Naveed is. I think they happened upon this type which has had to develop. I mean, when you it's it's another beautiful thing about the way Navid is written is obviously he encountered racism, but it's never mentioned until the Hyperdales episode.
Mm.
So everyone's gone to Hyperdales, and Navid's had to sack Isa, and he's in the Klansman, and Jack and Victor having to go at him. You sacked Isa, what just for shopping in Hyperdales? And I say I never sacked her, I let her go because you guys all went to Hyperdales. He said, every morning in life I got up 6 o'clock and took in the road and gave you tick, and I put up with a lot of shite, graffiti, and even him just saying the word graffiti, it's racist graffiti,
Mm.
right? But he doesn't overblow it. He just says it. But in that second, you think, yeah, in the 70s, he would have put up with a lot. And that's all implicit. It's very subtle. And I think that's what forms in Navid as well, is having come through all that, but still being part of the community and, like a vibrant part of the community. So that line of sarcasm as well, it just helps with dealing with, like I say, lanky Neds that want to buy glue that isn't for recreational purposes.
I was going to ask you a few questions to see how well you remember your scenes. So the first one was, the wedding episode.
Yeah.
What's the name of the guy who comes at the shop for Special K, but everyone thinks he's
Oh,
dead?
I do know that. Willie McIntosh.
Yeah, yeah.
He did really his box of Special K. Yes.
And Isaac comes out and says, like, you're dead, you got to move on. Yeah, that's funny.
Yeah. Yeah.
The next one was in the garden episode when they put the garden on the top of the flat. What TV show are you waiting to come on when Isaac's got gossip? And you say, you've only got a minute.
Right. Okay. Is it Columbo?
Yeah, Columbo, yeah.
Yes. Yes.
In Dial-A-Bus, when you're parked up next to the bus and they show the paper,
Yeah.
what is the football result and what the team?
Oh, I know it's Hearts. Oh, Jesus. All I can remember is Hearts nil. No. No.
Close.
What is it?
Hearts won Aberdeen nil.
Ah! That's a good question. I've never been asked that before.
Well, I think you'll get this one in Hard Nuts. What are you singing in the pub?
I'm on top of the world looking. Yes. Yes.
Did you enjoy that episode then? Where you
Yeah. Oh, that's my favorite.
is
I
it?
mean, I think my two favorites. So one was the New Year's flashback episode
Oh yeah.
because you get to see Navid's origin story.
Mm.
Learning the slang and all that, and also just all that 70s stuff was just amazing. But I loved that Hard Nuts because it was the first time really Navid had a full kind of narrative. Even him when he goes into the bookies. I actually put that scene on my show reel because he comes into the bookies, absolutely no interest in horses, and by the end of it, he's like, "Come on, better shine rotate." So that what, it was a nice kind of like acting wise, it was a nice thing to be able to do to play that narrative out. And the other thing as well is that I've had a very sheltered middle class upbringing, right? My mum and dad had zero interest in horses or bookies, so I'd never been into bookies before. So when Naveed goes into that fictional bookies and he says, picks up the wee pen, oh, look at the Road TV pen. I'm thinking that, why the pen so wee? Am I giant? Are only jockeys allowed to bet? What's going on here? So, yeah, that was a fun episode.
What's the name of the guy who Mina's meant to marry that comes back on the scene?
Natterji.
Yeah, I'm in Natalie. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Lights Out. What are the three items that the woman has the option to buy?
Oh. I don't know if I know this. It's not bleach, no. And not pineapple aid.
Pineapple is one of them. Yeah.
Pineapple aid, is it rolls?
No.
No, I don't know actually.
Buttered beans and marigold gloves.
Oh, Marigold Gloves Butterbeans, yeah, yeah.
In Recipe, when Isa wants you to speak to Tam about being less tight and his sexual relationship, what two things do you say are easier?
Climb Kilimanjaro with meter strapped to my back. Or
Yeah,
climb
yeah.
Everest. Which is it
K2.
Everest? Was it
Clive
K2?
K2. Yeah, yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
I got the mountain wrong. Climb K2 with Mina strapped to my back. Yes. Was there another one as well?
Yeah, yeah.
I can't remember.
Stealing the Coin or Diamond.
Yes, yes.
In small change, what year does Navid say the shop first opened?
I'm going to say 73,
76.
76.
It's over the 40 years when you put the prices.
Oh yeah, 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 yeah. Having said that, there's a lot of inconsistencies in Still Game that people have pointed out.
Yeah, that's been happening recently. That guy who does the
That
TikTok.
guy, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
And what's sweet is he's clearly a fan, and that's why he says, "Look, they annoy me a wee bit, and I'll live with it, but they do annoy me." It's hilarious because I know that Ford's been on TikTok talking about, or he's done a couple of like podcasts talking about this guy. It's very funny.
Did you notice that while they were filming and stuff then?
Well, okay, I'll ask you a question because you're clearly a fan. In the closing credits of, and I don't know which episode it is. So, okay, so what is Navid's surname?
It's the name of the shop. Harry's.
Yes.
Harry, yeah.
In one episode, in the closing credits, Navid is given the wrong surname, which then led to a bit of a conspiracy theory. Do you know what the surname is?
No.
Okay, I couldn't tell you which episode it is, but in one episode, he's called Navid Ingram. It's just a mistake.
Oh, really? Just, yeah.
And then people are like, is he related to Winston? Yeah, how could that possibly be? But yeah, he's called Navid. So that's like a basic mistake. But there, yeah, I mean, I remember watching the, so I can't remember which one came first. So you've got the New Year's flashback episode, yeah,
Yeah.
where um Tam, was it Tam or Winston? Winston goes up and they answer the door, and then Isa is looking through the letterbox, angling
It's
for an
Winston.
invite.
Yeah.
It's Winston, isn't it, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And the implication is that Jack and Victor don't know who Isa is at this point.
Mm.
Yeah. And then you've got the other flashback in the Pete the JK, the flashback of Pete the JK
Oh,
catching the fish.
yeah, with the dad.
Yeah.
Who's the daddy? Yeah, yeah.
Where they clearly know each other
Oh,
when
yeah,
they're
yeah.
were in their 20s. And I remember thinking, that's a mistake. And I made mistakes like that as a writer, so I get it. You know, it's sometimes these things just kind of pull through the cracks. But yeah, that's a bit of a glaring error.
Is it just you, like, how does the error come about? You just
I
kind of
think
forget.
you just forget. You just forget.
Yeah.
I think they worked out as well that the ages are inconsistent. You know, they have the 75th birthday, but
Yeah.
there was someone had pointed out, maybe that guy had said, well, they couldn't possibly be that age because I think they've been 75 twice or something like that. It's purely, I think. I mean, I know this is a writer. Sometimes you'll write something, and it's almost like reverse engineering. All right, for that joke to work, he has to be 72. Okay, blah, 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 put it in, and then forget about it. And then you do an episode three years later, and you give them an age, forgetting that you've done that series ago. It's an innocent mistake.
There is one with Naveed in it. I saw the other day that, when it's Spire and the
Yeah.
sack and you say, oh, she's been working here 12 years. But in the Scran episode, she says, oh, I've cleaned this floor 20 years.
See, I didn't even know that. So yeah.
Usually on, yeah. But it doesn't take away from the quality of it.
No. And it gives the super fans like a mission as well.
Yeah, yeah.
Find the deliberate mistake, which isn't deliberate at all. Yeah.
So, have you got a favourite line or a favourite scene?
I think I've been blessed with loads, but there's a there's a particular line, right? And the thing is that it's a line that Navid says, but it already existed as a line. I've heard it before, but it's when Margot, the new pub, do the pub quiz, and Isa says, I think might be a bit of romance between Bobby and Margot, and I say, oh, Geert and Isa, he couldn't get his hole in a barrel of Fernies. And there's just something about the rhythm of that. He couldn't get his hole in a barrel of Fernies. It's like hip hop. Do you know what I mean? Like Kendrick Lamar could say that. It's so wonderfully, the rhythm works beautifully. And also because I'm doing something else at the time, I just throw the line away. And it was one of those ones where I was there on the night when we recorded the laughter, and it got such a big laugh that people missed the next line. And they had to reduce the laughter in the broadcast so that people could hear the next line. So
Gee.
that was nice. But the other, as an actor, right, most of us are pretty hypercritical of ourselves because we're quite insecure human beings. That's why we're actors. But also because you know that when you're filming on set, you could have done a blinding take, but they can't use it because a seagull went past or something. So you're thinking, oh, shit, I did a really good take there. They can't use it. And you sometimes watch things back and think, oh, was that the best take? You know, and the thing is, no one else will know that. Only you will know the other takes. Everyone else thinks that's fine, and that's absolutely cool. But you think, oh God. But just occasionally, you watch a take and you think, I absolutely nailed that. And the one time that happened for me was it was the dial-a-bus. So do you remember at the end when the shop van crashed into the school and all the sweets fall out?
Yeah.
Oh, and then afterwards, me and Tam are going around inspecting the kids. Yeah, I don't even have to ask you what the cheesy March is 30 pounds. It's all that business. And then at the end, the headmaster says, I'm very sorry, Mr. Reed. I say, I don't worry, kids will be kids. And I walk on for 2 paces and then I pirouette round and I come back to him and say, you dirty bastard. And my timing was absolutely on point. So that was nice.
There's one as well where it's the one where Jack and Victor in Canada and Isa and Winston's going out Isa's and stuff, and she's had her hair done, and you say, "Oh, is that for Winston?" And then he comes in the shop and he says, "Oh, don't say anything." And then you say, "Oh, I hear you pumping ice."
Yes.
That's shag.
Yeah, yeah, I know. It's just that it's such a joy to be able just to be that rude and that direct, you know, being like a 73-year-old Asian Muslim shopkeeper. It's an absolute joy.
Have you had many scenes cut that people don't know about that would have led to a
No,
story?
no, I think no, no, because they were very. I think Ford and Greg were quite disciplined about writing to time, so they knew exactly how many pages they'd have to write. So I'm not aware of anything that I did getting cut or shortened. Um, no, I don't think so. No, I don't.
No.
I don't think there's any like cutting room floor stuff. I think it's all out there. I think. Yeah.
What about bloopers? Were there many
Oh, there was a there's an absolute belter actually that if you come along to the Old Pals show, uh, Paul Riley managed to get the actual footage. So so he's at the. I'm not in this scene. So Winston's at the bar, and so he's where he's meant to be, and Edith's in the scene as well. She's where she's meant to be, like Maureen Carter plays Edith. And Paul's thinking, as Michael says, action. He says, for this joke to work, Tam needs to be here behind me on the puggy machine, on the music machine, but he's not there. So anyway, he said action, and Paul does his lines, and as he's doing it, Mark Cox, who plays Tam, tries like a commando to shuffle through on all fours and stand up at the puggy machine. Unbeknownst to him, because of the way the shot's framed, everyone can see him, and he does it, and it's the funniest thing you've ever seen. He thought he got away with it. He really, really hadn't. So yeah, that's a brilliant outtake. I got approached by there used to be a show called It'll Be Alright on the Night, and it was all outtakes that they used to show on ITV. And I had done this big long monologue, which I got wrong 5 times. And I think it was about long, lustrous hair, the thick, really Dutch. And I kept getting it wrong because I'm bad at remembering lists. So I got it wrong 5 times. And then I got it right. And then I said, I've asked it up. And I said, no. I said, ah. And they asked my permission to use the clip. And I was dead chuffed because I loved that show. but they never used it. There's some reason, some copyright thing. I don't know why, but they couldn't use the outtake. So yeah,
And
yeah.
you mentioned your dad had like an influence on the role. You know, the older you get, obviously playing older people, do you feel Navid coming into your personality more?
Well, it's kind of more. It's more my dad coming into my personality. So in fact, when I would watch back still game, and it was actually quite creepy how much like my dad I was without me even knowing, even though I was channeling my dad.
Hmm.
Like, you know, when he's doing the bartering for the Maduri, which is £11, £30, £12. I do this thing where I go like this. I didn't know I'd done it until I watched it afterwards. It's exactly what my dad does. And there was another one where the Hyperdeals episode where I'm just wondering about Hyperdeals, you know, checking it out and being depressed at how good it is. So the director, Michael, had said, right, just walk up this aisle and just do what you think Naveed would do in Hyperdeals. So I put my hands behind my back and I walked, and this is my dad's walk. I call it Prince Philip inspecting the troops, hands behind the back, long stride. And then I just, for no reason, I flicked a box or something like that. Flicked a box. It's exactly what my dad did all the time. And again, it was like someone walked over my grave. It was, am I just my dad? So that's more my dad than Naveed, I would say.
You know, like obviously it ended on a brilliant ending. When a big band breaks up, you always get the will it happen again and so. Do you always still get that now?
Yeah. Uh, so many people have asked us when's the more still game. And I'll say to them, well, we are all dead. You did see us die. You don't see us die. I think that's the point, is that we all just do that fade away thing.
Hmm.
And I think if Ford and Greg really wanted to, they could just jump back in the timeline and do more still game. And it wouldn't be an issue. The question is, we did it, you know, on and off, apart from that hiatus in the middle, we did it for 17 years. We did like 9 series. We did Christmas specials. We did live shows. Maybe we should just leave it where it is because I would hate to tarnish the legacy.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? I'd hate to come back and then for people to say it's not as good as it was. I don't know. I mean, don't get me wrong. If Ford and Greg decided to do it again, I mean, I love playing Navid and I love the show, so of course I would do it. And Ford and Greg are very, very smart boys. They would not write something that was not good enough. But my worry would be that, you know, having said that though, when we do these Q&A shows, so many people say, "Yeah, I want to see more still game. I've watched the ones on Netflix 100 times. I want new stuff."
Yeah.
But then other people say, "I'm happy watching the ones on Netflix. They're like old friends. I'll put them on the background. It's like having an old pal in the house. I don't. I'm happy not to watch new stuff." So I don't know what the answer is. What I do know is that if Ford and Greg wanted to do it, I think they'd be very, very meticulous about it being good enough.
Yeah, like I say, don't want to ruin the legacy of it, do you?
No, 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 no.
Like I say as well, it means a lot to a lot of people, really. Does that mean you have a lot of fans coming up all the time saying,
Yeah. Oh, do you know what? I have to say, the thing that gratifies me the most is when kids like the show, because kids will cross the road to tell you something is shit. So when kids like the show, you know you can take that to the bank. But like on a slightly more serious note, I mean, especially now, you know, I don't even watch the news anymore because
hmm,
there's so much racism is back in a big, big way, right? Because of what Farage and Tommy Robinson and Reform have whipped up and what Trump's done over the pond, you've got all this horrible right wing rhetoric that's come up. So initially it's stop the boats, but then it becomes anyone brown. You know, I heard a story not far from you, Wakefield.
hmm,
There was a lassie, right? She's 28 years old. So she's like, I think Punjabi, like third generation. So her grandfather or great grandfather had come over from India. So she's born and bred Wakefield, broad Yorkshire accent, yeah? And she'd heard stories from her grandfather about racism in the National Front and all that in the 60s and 70s. But she said, well, I'm a Wakefield girl. She's walking up the road. These three guys come up to her and say, where are you from? Do you pay your taxes? Where are you from? Said, I'm from Wakefield. Listen to my accent. I am from Wakefield. and she was in tears because she said, "I just never thought that this would happen again. I thought that was ancient history, and now it's back again. This Nazism." So the reason I bring all that up is that people love Naveed, and I will never take that for granted. You know, if Naveed is the only visibly different person in your life, yeah, he's got a beard, he's Muslim, he's in the 70s, but you feel you can connect to this guy, you feel they can resonate with you feel that he has more in common with you than not, then I love that. I love being a part of that. I think I'll never ever take that for granted. So when people say how much they like Naveed, uh, I'm thinking of that bigger picture. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, I know he's fictional, but because Ford and Greg have written such a beautiful character and I brought my authenticity to it, if you feel he's a real guy and you like him, then my job is done.
Yeah, exactly. Like you say, with the state of the world's in now, it could do with something like still get. It's not just a laugh, like just the world's miserable and bleak now, innit?
I would honestly, I would love for one of these reform bastards to come into Naveed's shop and I would give him a verbal lashing, and then Mina would lay about him with a ladle and just several shades of shit out of him. No, she wouldn't.
Do you
And violence is never the answer. But yeah, it'd be funny, wouldn't it?
do you know with Mina, what was the thing of never showing her face till the end?
Well, the reason, so I had done, I got approached by a media studies student, right? Uh, and she said, "I'd like to interview you about the portrayal of ethnic communities in comedy and drama." And I said, "Yeah, that interests me as well. So yeah, I'll do, you know." So she came and interviewed me, she asked me some stuff. And then at the end, she said, "Could I ask you about the thorny Mina topic?" I said, "What's the thorny Mina topic?" And she said, "Why do we never see Mina's face? Is that a comment on the invisibility of Asian and Muslim females?" I said, "No, it really, really isn't that." I said to her, watch any episode of Still Game that Mina's in. Who do you think runs that shop? And who do you think runs that marriage? The answer is not Naveed. Mina is the king. Mina's the boss. So you can't tell me that Mina's a victim of anyone. Mina runs shit. So I'm not accepting that invisibility thing. The only reason you don't see Mina's face is it's a running joke because Ford and Greg were massive fans of American comedy and they loved that trope of it's actually not just American comedy, but it's the trope of an unseen character. So, for example, in Frasier, it's Maris. In Cheers, it used to be Norm's wife. In Dad's Army, it was Mrs. Manring. There used to be a show that you won't remember, you too wee, called Home Improvements with Tim Allen. And he had a neighbor at the back who basically apparently was actually God, but he was the neighbor. And you never saw his face. It was always obscured. And Ford and Greg just thought it'd be a funny joke to, how can we obscure Mina's face this week? Is it a box of crisps? Is it a Chopper Shop display? Is it a mop? Is it a newspaper? And that was the only reason. And obviously, it then meant, I mean, I can't imagine this was their game plan, but it meant they had that beautiful reveal after 17 years
Mm.
of her face. Because bless her heart, Shamshed, who plays Mina, never got the recognition. Everyone loved her character, but no one knew who she was. And it was only at that moment that they did know who she was. So yeah, it was a lovely moment.
Yeah, definitely. Do you know, like you mentioned there, that 7 year gap? I don't know if Greg and Ford had a little fallout or creative difference.
They had a very, very, very dull business fallout. But also bear in mind that they were the two sole writers of every episode of Still Game for what, 5 series? I think they just needed a break.
Mm.
And I'm glad they had it. Because I think when they came back with the live show, and oh my God, that was
That's what I was going
that's
to ask. What was that like, that live show?
oh, it's really hard to encapsulate. I mean, it's funny you were talking about when bands break up and you think they're going to get back together. I thought the same about Still Game. I thought they need a break. What'll happen is after a few months or a couple of years, they'll forget the bad stuff and they'll remember all the good stuff. And also, I know from my experience that they'll have taxi drivers asking every other day, when are you guys going to get back together? So I had a theory they'd come back, right? But I didn't think it'd be a live show. And I certainly didn't think it was going to be the Hydro, a 12,000 seater arena. So they announced, I got an email from my agent and said, "Oh, Still Game's coming back. It's going to be a live show." I'm like, "What? I've never seen that before. Never seen that before." I mean, sitcoms have done it. Rab C Nesbit did a live show, but I think the biggest capacity they had was like 1,500. It wasn't 10, 11, 12,000, right? So anyway, we were contracted to do 4 shows. Yeah. So what happened was that we did a press conference in an empty hydro, and they sent like these limos for us. It's a really, really big deal. Limo takes me to the hydro, which is basically a 12-minute drive from my house. Didn't need a limo. And get there, and we walk through this empty hydro. And as we're walking through it, I'm thinking, you could play cricket here and the ball wouldn't touch the ceiling. What are they thinking that they could sell this out 4 times? And then we did the press conference, and that was the Wednesday. And that was to publicize the pre-sale. I think that day, the 4 shows sold out. And
Jeez.
they just added another show, and then they added another show, and they added another show. I got to the point where we had a sweepstake going about how many shows we thought we'd sell. I think Paul said 10, I think Gav said 12, I think I said 9. We sold 21 shows. And so then you're thinking, great, but what if the first show dies? We've got another 20 shows. Thankfully, though, Ford and Greg were so clever about the way they wrote the show. They made it very, very inclusive. They referenced the fact that it was such a big arena. We were all mic'd up. There were screens. There's a real sense of occasion, and we got a standing ovation the first night, and we got a standing ovation for every show after that. But had that first show not worked, that was going to be a very long month. So
Were
thank
you,
God it did.
were you nervous that first night?
Well, I was probably the least nervous because of all the cast members, I was the one that had done the least stage work, right? Now, I think that made me the most nervous, but they were all really worried. They're saying no one has ever done narrative comedy on a stage this size, right? They played every venue in Scotland. They'd done Arnmore, they'd done Cumbernauld, they'd done the Alhambra. They'd done everything from like 100 seats up to 2,000, and they knew how all those venues behaved. Because with comedy, it's very important. You do the joke, you get the laugh, you write the laugh. The timing's everything. So they're all having these conversations. Well, we're in this 12,000 seater. What if we get patchy laughter? What if we get nothing because it's too cavernous? What if we get like echoes or whatever? And I was like, Scooby Doo. So I kind of went in like, let's just see what happens. I have no frame of reference. I don't know what to be scared of. And so I was probably the least nervous. I mean, I was nervous, don't get me wrong. But what I will say is this was we never got a sense that anyone wanted it to fail. There was nothing but goodwill for that show. You could just
Hmm.
sense it. So when we were waiting, that first show, I remember the crowd, you could just hear them simmering. It was like an animal. "Rrrr." But it was awful. It wasn't, they wanted it to succeed. They wanted it to come back, you know? And whenever we came in and did our entrances, we got a massive round, and that relaxes you because you're thinking, well, they're happy to see you.
Hmm.
And, just relax into it now. And it worked really well.
I guess it is one of them. If you do mess up a line or something, you can kind of laugh it off with the crowd if
Yeah.
they that.
Oh, that happened a few times. I mean,
Oh, really?
yeah, yeah, yeah. And it was funny because there's, if Jane tells a story, there was a scene when she comes into the shop and I say to her, "What's the matter, Liza?" She says, "Well, you'll never believe this, David." And she goes into a 2-minute monologue. And Jane is so good at that stuff. And she goes, it's all like all these non sequiturs and tangents and blah, blah, blah. She absolutely nails it in rehearsals and nails it the first 6 times you do it. And then the 7th time we did it, I came in and said, "Liza, what's the matter?" "No, no, is everything all right?" And she clearly blanked and she went, "Aye." And she looked at me like that, "Help me." And I said, because I understand such and such happened, and then that kick-started her. But for that moment, the panic in her eyes. Oh, and I talked to people afterwards. They didn't even notice. They didn't
Really?
even notice. So yeah, that happened a lot.
It must be a laugh as well, like when you were used to be on set with that cast as well.
Yeah, I mean, they're just very funny people, you know.
Mm.
Like I would have a moment and say, pinch yourself. You're with some very, very funny people here who are very funny in very different ways, and yeah, a lot of mischief as well. Paul Riley is a big prankster. He's a big, big prankster. I thankfully was never a victim of any of his pranks, but no, he'd got up to all kinds of stuff. Even like really childish stuff. Like there's a can of Coke that was rigged that you gave you electric shock. You know that kind of childish stuff. So there's a lot of that going on, and but it was good fun. It was good fun.
Who would you say is more like the character outside of Still Game?
Well, Jane would say this herself, so I'm not doing it. She loves to talk and she loves to eat. Now you wouldn't know it to look at her because she's like a page three stunner. She's beautiful and gorgeous, but she will. She tells a story that we were on a train together going to a gig, and this woman said, "Is okay if I get a selfie?" She said, "I fine." She says, "I would have asked you on the train, but you never stopped chatting or eating." Yeah. And she does love to find out people's stories. She loves to ask. She's very inquisitive. Are you married? Is brother and sister? Where are you from? Where's the accent from? Blah blah blah. So she is naturally inquisitive. So I'd say definitely Jane is closest to her character.
You mentioned the live show was a massive success. Did a series come about straight after, or did you expect a series coming?
I thought it would happen because I couldn't see it not happening. Um, I don't know if that was their plan, was to see how the live shows go and then whatever. But they were so successful they could not have done another TV show. Do you know
Mm.
what I mean? I mean, the only issue was that in the 5 year hiatus, the technology all changed, the cameras changed, the sound changed. So it meant they had to re-record the opening titles. And then they also got the Scottish National Orchestra to record the theme tune. And so it felt slightly different. And I think some people just felt that they should have kept it the same. I mean, I don't know. I find it hard to be objective about it, but I thought it looked better. But a lot of people felt, they said, in fact, someone said something very telling. They said, if you watch an episode of Still Game from the first five series, if you walked into the Klansman, you could smell the urinal cakes. Whereas latterly, it just felt a bit richer and a bit, I don't know. And I kind of know what they mean. It just looked a bit more like a documentary, the first five series, because of the technology.
Mm.
And I think part of the charm of Still Game is that it's relatable. So it doesn't just mean relating to, oh, I've got an Isa in my life, or I've got Jack or Victor in my life, I've got Navid in my life. It's also about I've got a Klansman in my life, and that's what it's like. And I think maybe they felt that the atmosphere and the look of the first five series was a bit more relatable and a bit more real. I don't know. But and I also don't know what was on Ford and Greg's mind, how many series they wanted to do, or whether they would just keep writing till they felt that maybe that's it done. I don't know.
I didn't know till recently as well. I saw you do another podcast and you were saying like I saw the clip and you were saying um, the sweets in the shop you never like tried them, did you? But Isa did.
But
Well,
yes,
Jane did.
yes. She basically wouldn't stop chatting and eating, and she was firing into these cola cubes and all that. And so what happened was that we used to, I think the first two series we filmed in the actual shop, but then it was too small a space for the cameras, so we ended up doing a set build. So I think we're still in the shop at this point. I can't remember. And so Isa was fine, and then she noticed there was these wee black dots because you know the story. So she noticed these black dots and said, "What are these wee black dots?" I don't know. Ask props. So she asked Stevie from props, and what are the black dots on the cola cubes? He said, "Oh, you've not been eating them, have you?" She said, "Aye, why?" He says, "That's rat droppings." But as she says herself, it didn't affect her. She was absolutely fine. So yeah, I think she very quickly stopped eating the stock after that.
I never knew it was actually filmed in a shop. The first two series.
Definitely the first series was filmed in the shop that you see. And then after that, the exterior is the same, but the
Yeah,
interior is a set build in another location. Yeah.
I didn't know that. What was
If
it
you
like?
if you were to watch it, the shop will look bigger in the latter series, definitely.
What was it like working in the Klansman? Like when you had a change of scene?
I mean, that was weird because you definitely felt like you were on someone else's. It was a bit like sleeping with someone else's wife. So I mean, because you felt like this isn't my territory. But then it was a lot of fun doing the whole thing about the serving Winston and only giving him the wee shot of whiskey and spraying Tam with the lemonade was good fun as well. Um, but that's always nice. It's like I always felt very at home in the shop and Navid. I mean, even for example, like when I think I'm right in saying that the first time Navid leaves the shop is when he asks Jack and Victor to run the shop because he's got to go back for his brother's funeral. So as you remember, he goes and I remember the director saying to me, he said, when you walk up to Jack and Victor's flat, or when you're in their flat, bear in mind you're the richest guy in Craig Lang. So just prowl like you own the place. And that's kind of what I channeled, like prowling about, like judging everything with my eyes, like judging the pad with the ball and all
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
Yeah. So that was interesting. 'Cause I hadn't thought of that before. So obviously, when I go into the Klansmen, I'm very judgmental because obviously I think they're all jakey bastards, right? So it's funny how the way I judge everyone and compare it all to Jeremy Kyle, it's exactly what Naveed would do. So that was good fun.
And then in the New Year one, where it's at your house,
Yes.
and then it's got all the like all the white. It's like a proper
Yeah.
white room in it with
Oh
the.
no, that's it. It's all cream. And that's a very aspirational Asian and Jewish and Italian aspirational furniture is exactly the same. It's cream carpets, lots of glass swans, lots of cabinets, big massive televisions. It's very well observed. And weirdly, that house where we filmed, it turned out it belonged to the owner of Cafe India, which is a restaurant in Glasgow where I used to wash dishes when I was 17 years old.
Really?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So it was very, very authentic.
Yeah, yeah. Can you remember your first line and your last line in the series?
Oh, blimey. Oof. The first line obviously was about the purse for here's your purse, but it was is the van locked? Is that the first line? No, there's a line before that, isn't there? I
Yeah,
know that there. What is the line?
it's just what happened
Oh,
when
what
he comes in
happened?
all this story.
Yeah, right. And is the van locked? And then I give him the purse for the yeah. The very last line.
It's
What's the
just
very?
one word, the last line.
I can't even think what the scene is.
Should I give you a clue what the scene is?
Yeah, yeah.
It's when you're all outside when they're waiting to go up the mountain the next day. Ben Nevis, isn't it?
Oh,
And you and Isa turn up.
yes. Oh, I can't think what I said though.
He said no. They said, "Have you got any food?" And you said no.
That was my last line.
That was your
Didn't
last
even know
line.
that. God, I didn't even know that. That's so funny.
You mentioned Rab C Nesbit. They did a live show, but you actually appeared in that. That's another
Yeah,
massive Scottish comedy. Was that a Ollie really?
yeah. I mean, that was like a proper institution, and I got to, I was lucky to have a part in that. And yeah, it's like as someone that grew up as a fan of comedy, there's a lot of pinch me moments when you're working with proper legends and icons. You have to try and forget that when you're working with them because fangirling is no use. That energy is no use. You just have to do the work and then think about it later. But even now, you saying that, you forget, oh my God, I was in Rab C Nesbit. But yeah, like I recently, it's not been out yet, but I'm a big, big fan of Jack Doherty, who from Absolutely, and the Chief and Scott Squad. I don't know if you've seen any of those shows, but I'd done some scenes with him for the Chiefs. So basically, the Chief, he's Chief Mickelson. He's this very, very arrogant, self-important chief of police, and he's written it. He's a brilliant writer, Jack Doherty, and a brilliant performer. And he's very kind of very arrogant Edinburgh man. Yeah, yeah, very self-important, yeah. And I got to play the Scottish Justice Minister. So I filmed all my scenes in one day, and I'm there just sparring with Jack Docherty. I'm thinking, the 14-year-old you is absolutely losing his shit right now because this guy's a legend. So yeah, stuff like that is like it's lovely. It is lovely.
Have you ever had any like you mentioned being a fan of people? Have you ever had any strange fan interactions?
Oh God, yeah, but well, I remember the first time. This is pre-still game actually, right? So back in '99, I want to say, because I started as a radio presenter who became a writer, but I was still doing presenting work. So I used to do a bit of TV presenting back in the day, and I still do it occasionally. But there was a show. It was called Network East, which sounds like a railway franchise. It wasn't. It was an Asian magazine show that was on BBC Two on Saturday mornings. And I say that because people even now say, "Do you remember that show you did on Sundays?" I said, "No, it was Saturdays." It just felt like Sunday. I used to present this show, and it was aimed, like I say, at the Asian community. So what it meant was that I was brown famous. So I could go to Glasgow, Inverness, Bournemouth, Leeds, Bradford, Wakefield, like Manchester, Liverpool, Warrington, and be recognised by Asians. So it was very, very odd. It was my first kind of taste of so-called celebrity, and it was surreal. I remember once being Network East had started going out, and I was at a wedding, and four people. There's a queue of four people to get my autograph. Right, it wasn't Beatlemania. So they got the autographs, and the fourth guy, he just looked really disinterested, and he said, "Are you famous?" I said, "You do understand the irony of the question you just asked me. If you have to ask me if I'm famous, it probably means I'm not famous." And he said, "Are you famous?" I said, "I present a show called Network." He said, "Yeah, those guys are queuing up. I thought I'd get your autograph." I said, so I felt like I was signing my soul away. He didn't know who I was. Oh, there you go, mate. Please gonna fuck off. You just completely annihilated me. But then about a week after that, I found myself in London. I think I was down for work, and I was in the top shop in Oxford Circus, and I was buying a belt. So I was looking at belts, right? I was aware of a 17-year-old Asian guy kind of staring at me, pretending to look at belts, but looking at me like that. And like I say, at this point, I wasn't used to the idea of celebrities. I thought, is, did, I'm sure he's not stalking me, right? So, but I thought I better check. So I then went to look at socks, and suddenly he's looking at socks. And I think I went to lingerie, and he followed me there. So I thought he's definitely stalking me, right? So I came back to belts. So I found a belt, right? And he eventually came and he approached me. He says, "It's you, isn't it?" I said, "Well, philosophically, yes, it is me. As you are you, I didn't say that. I said, "What do you mean?" He says, "Network East, you presenter in it." I said, "G. Kohli in it?" I said, "Yeah, yeah, yeah." Wow, what are you doing here? I said, "Buying a belt? You have to buy your own belts?" I said, "Yeah." So, wow. So, and then the immortal words, "Where's your bodyguard?" And to this day, I wish I'd had the presence of mind to lean right into him and whisper in his ear, "By the door, no sudden moves." I'd, so that was hilarious. That's probably the funniest kind of fan exchange I've had. But then also there's really, really touching ones. So I was doing again another presenting job, and we're filming in a restaurant in Edinburgh, and we're filming during the day before it opened. So people are doing stuff, they're cleaning stuff and they're fixing stuff. And there was a guy, a carpenter, was fixing tables. Guy in his mid-20s, right? And he kept looking over, and I could tell that he wanted to speak to me, but he was too shy. So there was a break in filming, and I went over to him and said, "Mate, I don't want to presume anything. Did you want a selfie or anything?" He said, "Would that be okay?" I said, "Of course, yeah, yeah, yeah." So then he gets his phone out, and he's physically trembling, right? And I said to him, "Are you okay? Are you shaking?" He said, "Yeah." He said, "Look, I grew up in care, and still game got me through my childhood."
Jeez.
So if ever I feel a little bit grumpy or a little bit I'm not in the mood for selfies, I just remember that day
Mm.
and think, fucking dry your eyes. You're lucky to have been in a show that resonates with people. And the fact that they want a selfie with you means that do you know what I mean? Why would I begrudge them that? I mean, my only rule is if you're a dick or impolite to me, I'll be a dick or impolite back.
Yeah.
But if you're polite and you're nice, then of course I'm going to do a selfie with you because why would I not? Because I know for a fact that without the fans, the show would not have the profile it does. So,
Yeah, you're right there. I totally agree with what you say there. You mentioned fags, bags, and bags. Is it hard to do a comedy on radio? Like when
no, it's easy. It's easy.
really?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Because you don't have to memorize it. You got the script in front of you.
Oh yeah, good point.
Yeah, no, that's the genuinely that's part of it because so much of problem with TV acting and stage acting is that the fear of not learning the lines, and then you're thinking, I'm trying to emote here. I'm trying to present a character. The last thing on my mind needs to be what's coming next. I need to be able to actually be natural and be whatever. Radio is not an option, so you got it in front of you. So yeah, I love it. And also, in terms of writing radio comedy, there are so few barriers between what's in your mind and what is broadcast. If I want to set a sitcom on the moon or on Jupiter, I just do it with sound effects. I don't have to worry about the visuals. If I want to set a sitcom under the sea, same thing. There's so much less to worry about. So radio comedy is a joy. It just doesn't pay as much as telecomedy. That's the tragedy of it.
Is it like I know obviously with the shopkeeper and like even that you took influence from your dad, like we said before, and the shop that you had in childhood, but like what else do you take like inspiration from just everyday life?
Yeah. You'll meet me like, for example, with Ramesh, who is the shopkeeper I play in Bags, Bags and Bags. He's sort of based on a friend of my dad that lived in London. And he speaks like a very, 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 very good of clever man, but very opinionated. Bloody Jimmy Carter, bloody peanut farmer, isn't it? And I must have gone into my hard drive when I was 10 years old. And I just remembered him. And that's who I channeled. I mean, basically, whenever I play a character, the best thing you can do is to try and find an individual to channel because that's the way I do accents as well. Like, I'm quite good at doing Geordie because I loved our feeding pet. And I
Yeah.
just remember Jimmy Nail. Oh, Milan, is it? Oh, I'm sorry, being a bit of soft shite. So I know I could do accents if I can fixate on one person. And it's the same with character stuff. Even just things like for example, right, a new guy at university, right? He did this thing with his mouth, and if I can just emulate that, then it changes the shape of your mouth and it changes your accent, right? So it's a useful thing to be able to fixate on one individual. So for most things that I do, it's also very helpful to put some distance between yourself and your character. It just helps, like I hate my own voice, and I'd much rather try and put a spin on it or something so it sounds like someone else. I just find it easier, and that could, that whoever that is changes from job to job.
Mm. What about like Stan and Ollie? Like that was a big film, wasn't it? What was it like being on that?
Yeah, well, that was the reason I got that gig was Still Game because the director John S. Baird, brilliant genius director, loved Still Game, and he said to me, "Look, do you want to play the manager of the Glasgow Empire?" I said, "Yeah, I mean, I don't think you'd have been Asian, but I'm not going to talk myself out of a job." And I was literally one day of my life, but it was Steve Coogan and John C. Riley, and I'm the world's biggest Steve Coogan fan, right? And I said to myself, look, don't talk to Steve Coogan about Steve Coogan because the world doesn't need that, right? If he's up for a conversation, fine. If he's not, leave the man alone. And he didn't seem up for a conversation, so I didn't really get a chance to chat to Steve Coogan. And probably I wouldn't have made a dick of myself anyway because I just read his autobiography, so it was probably a bad idea to speak to him anyway. But John C. Riley was much more open and friendly and stuff. And we were filming in they'd mocked up a theatre. I think it was Wimbledon Theatre in London. They'd mocked it up to look like the Glasgow Empire, and I was the manager. And so Steve Coogan and John C. Riley were in costume, obviously, and John C. Riley was wearing a fat suit because he was playing Oliver Hardy, right? And what a performance, by the way! Oh, amazing. So because he's in this fat suit and it's a very warm day, and we're in Wimbledon Theatre, the ventilation isn't great. He was getting very hot. So for continuity and for comfort reasons, the minute we shouted cut, there'd be like two floor fans, two handheld fans, just to keep him cool, yeah? And he didn't complain, he just sat and he did it. And in fact, he's chatting to people and he was talking. He said, back in the 20s, there used to be a baseball player, big guy, big corpulent guy, big fat guy. If you can say fat anymore, I don't know. And back in the day, medical thinking was all about reducing inflammation. So they would pack him in ice between ends. I don't know if baseball ends, I think. They'd pack him in ice because that was all about inflammation. You had to reduce inflammation of your lungs, of your veins, of your arteries, of your major organs, your liver, your pancreas. And what's really funny, what's really cool, is that medical thinking has come back around to this. You talk to any medical professional, and they will talk about inflammation, reducing inflammation. It's all about reducing inflammation. Inflammation, FYI. Okay? So there's about a circle of people, and he said, FYI. Now, my problem is that I love wordplay. Can't help myself, right? And there was a wee 3 second gap. I thought he'd finished speaking. So I sort of stepped into the circle of trust. And I said, well, that's what FYI stands for your inflammation, which is not a bad joke, right?
Yeah.
And he looked up at me and he said, actually, it stands for feckless yobs interrupting.
Jeez.
So I felt like I was falling down a well for about 2 millennia. It's probably about 3 seconds. And then he said, it's Sanjeev, isn't it? I said, yeah. And he said, lovely work in the scene. Keep it up. Good character stuff. I think he was genuinely pissed off. I don't think he'd finished his story and I'd stepped all over it. And I think he realized that he threw me a rope. But
Yeah.
that was my Stan and Ollie story. Jesus.
What do you know what I watched recently actually? Cold Water.
Yeah.
Do you think there'll be another series of that? 'Cause
Fingers crossed. I mean, they obviously left it open.
Hmm.
And Andrew Lincoln is very invested in it. And because obviously he's a huge star, I'm hoping that will get the second series commissioned. So we've not heard anything, but I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful.
Did you enjoy working on that? You were with Greg on that, weren't you?
With Greg and with Johnny Watson, who's the only excuse, and Ewan Bremner, who's
Hmm.
astonishing,
Yeah, really good. Yeah.
so sinister.
Hmm.
Because a lot of the parts, Ewan's a brilliant versatile actor, but the usual thing is like a lot of casting directors or directors don't realize someone's range. So he's never really, as far as I know, really been cast as a sinister person before. But he's so good. It's all under control. Oh, creepy.
You
Very,
think of
very
him in
good.
like Train Spotting, don't you? So then when he does that,
Yeah, well, this is it. Yeah. If Spud from Trainspotting is your only frame of reference, you're going to get a big surprise. And also, Eve Miles, brilliant. Indra Varma, brilliant. Andrew Lincoln, brilliant. I mean, it's just a brilliant cast to be working with and a great atmosphere on set. Good fun.
yeah, it was brilliant. You in the? I haven't watched it, but a Netflix series, Department Q.
Oh, you have to watch Department Q. It's very good. Very good.
Is it what was it like filming that and watching?
It's amazing. I mean, the only annoying thing was it was the cream of Scottish acting talent, but I never got to actually work with most of them because my part in it was so the lead is a guy, an actor, Matthew Good, who's absolutely astonishing actor, and he's the lead. He's this embittered cop who is brought back out of retirement to head up a cold case department, and his living situation is that he lives in a flat with his stepson, and they hate each other. And it isn't his flat; it's actually his ex-wife's flat. So they're kind of stuck with each other in this flat. And I'm the third wheel in the flat. I'm this kind of eternal student guy. almost like the Big Lebowski, this kind of dude who cuts about in a dressing gown and bizarre hair, and and we spar with each other because we're both smart arses. So all my scenes were with Matthew
Hmm.
and the younger actor. So I never got to work with Mark Bonner, Jamie Sivers, Shirley Henderson. I did get one scene with the amazing Kelly MacDonald, which was lovely. Oh, Kate Dickie. So that is happening again, which is great. So you should get it watched before the second series, which won't be till next year at least.
Yeah, I'll definitely watch that. So, what have you filmed the second series then?
No, no, no. We only found out about 2 months ago that it'd been commissioned, and we're going to film it next year at some point. So I don't know when it'll be out, but yeah.
Yeah, I'll definitely watch the first series. Isn't Mark in it as well?
Yeah, there's one scene actually where the scene that Mark's in with Kate Dickie and oh, what's his name? Really good actor. But all three of them have been still game.
Oh, really?
So Kate Dickie is, the quiz episode
Yeah,
with a pregnant woman.
yeah, yeah.
Kate Dickie's the pregnant woman.
All right, yeah.
And oh, what's his name? The actor. Oh, he's very good. And it's really embarrassing. I've forgotten his name. But he's the guy, Nosmo King. You smoked your leg off. So when Winston goes to the
Oh,
hospital,
yeah, with his
yeah, yeah,
arm. Yeah, yeah.
yes.
I
So all
can't
three of
remember his
them have
name.
been in still game. It's hilarious.
Yeah. What is it like when I don't know if you've done have you done a scene with people from Still Gaming something else? Well,
Yeah.
like, is it weird? Is it strange?
Well, no, because I mean, I guess I've known them all outside the still game. So, and I know how good they are. I know what the range they have. So, it just means that you're in safe hands. You know you're in safe hands. You know you're with you're with a very, very good actor. So, yeah, I mean, we could easily the still game thing doesn't actually infect what we're doing. I hope it doesn't anyway. Uh, it's just nice to see them.
You've got a credit in filth, but what what
Yeah,
what
I got
happened?
cut. I got sensationally axed from Filth. So
Really?
again, John S. Baird, who did Stan and Ollie, he cast me because he likes me, and he was so apologetic when he phoned me. He said, "I'm really sorry, Sanj. We had to cut 3 minutes from the film for cinematic release,
Mm.
and your scene had to come out." So, have you seen the film?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So, do you remember when Bladesy and Robinson are in the flight and they're swearing away? And
Yeah.
then this American tourist says, "I don't care for your language, young man." And he says, "I'll thank you to butt out of police business. I'm a DC, and I'm undercover, and we're trying to ingratiate ourselves with those two businessmen who are actually pedophiles." And she's really apologetic. "Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't know you were undercover." And then there's a scene at the airport where the American guy comes up to me and this other Asian businessman and says, "I know who you are. I know what you do." And I think I did have a line like, "We are just businessmen." And he says, "You're not businessmen. You're pedophiles." So that's the scene that got cut. So, but what a great job though. I got to hang out with James McAvoy, Eddie Marsan in Sweden and Belgium. And my name's still in the credits, so win-win. But
Yeah,
no, I'm
exactly.
not. Sadly, I'm not in the final cut.
What
Well,
so
I think it might be in the DVD extras. It might be a cutscene, possibly.
do you know a program you were in actually that I really like? Well, it wasn't a program really, but House of Games.
Great program. Richard Osman is my. I kind of want him to be my dad, but he's 2 days. He's actually 2 days younger than me. No, no, he's 2 days older than me, so he can't be my dad. But I love him, and he's so clever, and he's clever in a very modest way. He's so bright. And he comes up with all the rounds, and I think they're so cleverly constructed. Answer Smash, I
Mm.
build my day around Answer Smash. Do you know what I mean? I genuinely, we're around the dinner table and we watch Answer Smash. It's fantastic. And it's so nice to be able to take a part in it.
Yeah, it's brilliant,
And
brilliant.
I got the dartboard, and I got the suitcase, and I got something else. I did the winner of winners one, and Josie Long absolutely annihilated me because she's so bloody clever. But I did manage to get a cafetiere out of that, a golden one.
What did you do? Have you still got them then?
It just sits ornamentally. I don't want to use them. I just want to, like, can you imagine like taking the Richard Osman suitcase around the airport it'd feel like a flex, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Like a dick move, wouldn't it? So no.
Yeah, it's brilliant. So, what are you working on now then? Can you tell us what's happening?
We recorded the very, very last Fags, Mags and Bags. So basically Radio 4 said, look, thanks, but it's come to an end. But we want to give you one more show. And we recorded it with an audience. We don't normally do the show with an audience, but we for this last one we have. So we recorded it 4 5 weeks ago, and we've cut it, and it'll go out on 22nd of December, Radio 4. So we're very pleased about that. I think it's a really nice last show, nice way to go out. Um, there's a whole bunch of stuff that I've done that's not been out yet. So I did my first Midsummer Murders. So that will hopefully be out at some point next year. I did, talking to game shows, I did The Weakest Link.
All right, yeah.
I'm not sure when that's out, quite soon, I think. I did this film called Glenrothan, which is Brian Cox's directorial debut, and he's in it as well. Brian Cox, Alan Cumming, Shirley Henderson, Siobhan Redmond. I've got a wee part in it. Probably next year that's out. I did a kids show for CBBC called Gifted, about a school for the gifted, where I play the headmaster. And the biggest news about that is that one of the child actors who's in the show is the new Harry Potter in the HBO.
Really?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So there's a lovely boy, incredibly talented boy called Dominic McLaughlin
Gee.
from Blantyre near Glasgow. Great family, lovely kid, really talented. And he's the new Harry Potter. I'm so pleased for him. And I hope his life goes well. Hope he's protected because it's a difficult world. So yeah, it's a few things. And there's a lot of other things that may or may not happen. Like I'm doing a lot more writing now. But it's stuff that is speculative at the minute, so pointless talking about it. Oh, The Chief that I talked about with Jack Doherty, that's still to go out as well.
Hmm.
That'll be out, I think, probably March time. So, yeah, I was lucky. I had a very nice run of acting jobs over a course of 18 months, which also included Cold Water and Department Q, and also a film called I Swear, which is
All right, yeah.
brilliant. In fact, it features a Leeds boy, Rob Aramayo. So, actor from Leeds, who is going to win every single award going, I tell you now, for his
Really,
part.
yeah.
I won't say anything more about it. Just go and see it at the cinema. It's
All
called
right,
I
yeah, I'll look
Swear.
at it.
Called I Swear. I am in it for about 45 seconds, but weirdly made the trailer. And it's a fantastic film, best film I've seen in decades. And I'm in it, which is great. But the all the performances are brilliant.
Is that
But
the guy with the Tourette's? Oh,
yes,
yeah, I've heard of that. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, yeah. But honestly, Rob Aramayo, Chef's Kiss, he will win all the awards. It's fantastic.
I'll have to watch that. Yeah, well, I'll have to watch that Department Q as well,
Yeah,
definitely.
no. Do you know what? Sometimes you'll do a job and you'll know it's not brilliant, but I can say about Department Q, and I swear, I can sing from the rooftops about it. In fact, I'll say to people, I might be the shittest thing in it, but please watch it. They are brilliant. They are brilliant. They are
Yeah,
really,
I'll
really good.
definitely watch them.
Mm.
And what about live shows? Like, have you got any live shows put up with?
You know, I'm doing one on Saturday. I'm doing like a one-man kind of Q&A thing in Kirkintilloch near Glasgow. We've got some of the old pal shows. We're doing Belfast. We're doing Carlisle. This is all next year. There's another couple of venues. So we've got them coming up. So yeah, yeah.
Yeah, brilliant. Well, good luck with everything. I can't wait to watch the new stuff coming out and the stuff I said I will watch. And thank you so much for your time. It's been an honour to speak to you.
No worries. Nice to meet you.
You too, thank you.
Give my love to Leeds.
Yeah, yeah. And you'll have to do a show down here sometime.
I'd love to. I think, do you know what? I think we'd get a good crowd. I mean, when we did Newcastle, people came from like Hexham and all around. Do you know what I mean? I think people did come from Leeds, but we definitely got a following in Yorkshire. So, and like I say, I'd love the Yorkshire sense of humour. I also love educating Yorkshire. So, did you stamp on the red? Martin, I don't know. Did Martin? I don't know. So I would love to come to Leeds. Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely. Well,
Yeah.
I'll have to keep an eye out, see what happens.
No, do that. Hopefully, we'll see you.
Yeah, nice one, Sanjeev. Thank
All
you.
right. Cheers, man. Take care.
You too. Bye, bye.
Cheers. Bye.